I recently finished my first 50-mile ultra marathon about a month ago, mid-November, at the Smith Rock State Park in Central Oregon. The race was called Run the Rock, and it was an awesome race. The weather was perfect that day. It was probably 60 degrees with hardly any wind, and the scenery was incredible. The race itself took me 12 hours and 20 minutes to complete, and I was pretty happy with my performance. So I've been doing a lot of trail running over the last 5 years. I've accomplished several Spartan Ultra races, which is a 50K race, typically anywhere around 7,000 to 9,000 feet. And then I've done a lot of 50K trail runs. And up until this point, until this 50-mile marathon, the farthest I've ever run was around Timberline Trail, which is a trail that runs around Mount Hood. It was 43 miles and 10,000 feet of climbing. So I felt like it was time for me to go to the next level and do a 50-mile trail run, and the Run the Rock race was awesome. If you're interested on how that race was or the scenery, I can put a link to it in this video here. On this video, I want to share with you some tactics that I used for my first 50-mile race that I thought might be useful to you if you're looking to do a 50-mile race or even a 50K in your near future and you don't have that much experience. So I'm going to go over some lessons learned or things that worked well for me, and these aren't your typical lessons learned that you can find from searching YouTube, etc. So this is kind of maybe some outside the box type of lessons learned. So let's get into it. All right, the first lesson is make sure that you know the course, and you need to download the course to your phone. So most race directors will have a link to the actual course on what's called Cal, Topo, or they'll just provide a link to what's called a GPX file. And you can download that to your phone. Make sure that you have some type of app and you've downloaded the actual map for the region that you're in. I like to use Gaia GPS just because it's the first thing I've signed up on, and it's pretty easy for me to function. So I downloaded the course map to my Gaia GPS, and then I knew exactly where the course was. So this course was 2 loops, and it was marked very well. The course was marked very well by the race director. And on the second loop, we were nearing the finish, and it was getting dark, and I was using headlamps. And the course flagging actually had a little bit of reflective material, so it was easy to see. But as I was coming along, part of the race, we were running down a road, and then we needed to go off onto the trail, and actually we went through some cows. I'd call it a cow patch. And I remember that the first time because there was a lot of cows and it was muddy. But on the second loop, I saw where we had to go visit the cows, but the course markings pointed that we needed to continue down the actual road. And I stopped the guy I was with. We ran probably maybe 100 yards past that point, and I said, "Hey, I don't think this is right. I think we're supposed to go back and take a turn back there." And we were tired at this point, and he was like, "No, they must want us to go this way." I pulled out my phone, and actually the road that we were going on would have not taken us anywhere near the finish line. So we went back, we got back onto the actual course route, and we finished. But what we had learned was somebody had gone through, somebody who probably was unhappy with trail running going on out there in that area, and they had actually sabotaged the course markings and turned the arrows to have people going down the road. We had kind of figured that out at the time thanks to my phone, and I was able to convince the other person I was with that it was the wrong way and we needed to go back to the right. So we kind of turned the course markings back to the direction it was supposed to go, so hopefully nobody else would go down there. But that's something you want to know, because I've experienced this before in other races where saboteurs will take down course markings. And if you're tired and it's dark, you don't want to make a mistake. This was 60 degrees that day, wasn't really that important, but if it was very cold out, it could become a kind of a survival situation. So make sure that you have the course, download it to your phone so you can figure out where you're at, and if you get lost, you can get right back on the path. Calculate your cutoff paces. I figured out how fast I needed to be traveling to get past the first cutoff and actually get past the second cutoff total. Once I knew what my cutoff paces would be, I had my Garmin watch to set an alert for every mile, and it would give me my pace for that mile. And that way I can kind of monitor if I was going to make it or if I needed to step it up to try to get past the cutoff pace. So don't try to do it out there while you're running and you're tired and you're figuring out the math. I'm not good with math. Maybe you are. Once I got my cutoff pace, I actually snapped a photo of it and I just kept it on my phone so I can use it as a reference. So that way I wouldn't have to like second guess myself or forget what the actual pace was. The third lesson is know the aid stations and know your cutoff points. This race actually had a nice graphic of the aid stations, and then I snapped a photo of it and kept it on my phone as a reference. I had made a mistake. I thought the second cutoff point was 40 miles, but the reality was it was 41.4 miles. I didn't realize this until I was getting near the aid station, and I thought, oh my gosh, I might have to pick this up a bit because I may not actually make the cutoff point because I miscalculated the actual distance by 1.4 miles. The second thing on this is don't expect that the mileage that you're provided by the race director is actually accurate to what your watch is saying. My watch actually was going a little bit further. It was actually more than 41.4 miles. So you need to give yourself a little bit of fudge factor. I'd say maybe 5 or 10% for the distance. So if they say it's 40 miles, you might as well just suspect that it's 40.4 miles on your watch while you're out there doing it with your GPS. Most of these aid stations are not actually arriving at the cutoff point, it's getting out of the cutoff point. So that's another thing, is give yourself a little buffer, a little fudge factor to get into the aid station and get out of there before the cutoff time starts. I kind of realized I made a mistake on my distance, and I ended up I knew I was gonna make it, but I left the aid station with probably about 20 minutes to go. So I left there at 3:40 p.m. and the cutoff time was 4 p.m. Lesson number 4 is don't get lulled into the walking dead. And I've seen this happen a lot at Spartan Ultra races where you will be encountering a lot of half marathon racers on your second loop of the Ultra. And a lot of those people aren't as in great a shape as the people that start in the morning. So they'll be hiking or walking. The walking dead is where people are just walking to cover the distances, even though you may be able to run those distances. And it's very easy to look at these other racers walking and you think, oh, maybe I'll just walk a bit. And you end up turning into the walking dead, and you'll just be out there longer and you may miss a cutoff point. So I kind of, on the second loop of this race, I encountered a gentleman. He was walking, I was walking, and then I kind of realized I could probably be running some of these sections. They're not too much of an incline. So I basically said I had to wake myself up. I had to wake myself up and say, don't turn into the walking dead just because there's other people out here walking. And I forced myself to kind of get back into the race mentality and actually pushing myself to where I can run and then walk where I have to, and then run where I can, walk where I have to. What I notice is as you pass the walking dead, they'll actually turn up their effort level. So it's real easy to basically just turn into a bunch of walkers because you're tired. So that could really hinder your performance, and it could possibly make you not make a cutoff point and you don't finish. So don't get lulled into the walking dead. If there's other people walking, just realize that you may be walking just because they're walking. So those are the 4 lessons I've learned from my first 50 miler, and hopefully you can take some of my knowledge and apply it to your 50 miler or your 50K or whatever you're doing out there. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching, and be sure to get out there and escape the matrix.